Namaste, yogis. This is Lisa Meranti with OneTreeLove, and I'm coming to you on what is International Day of Yoga, and it is the day after summer solstice 2020. And I'm coming to you with a Sup Yoga adventure. Before we get on the board, before we put any ripples into the water, I just want to invite all of us to take some time to set our eyes and our mind on the water, on its stillness, on its life-giving powers, and then scanning around the water, taking in the vibrant green colors of the trees and their life-giving powers. And then shifting awareness to the sky, beautiful blue sky, its vastness, its openness, its reflection of our blue planet. And as we get ourselves prepared for a Sup Yoga adventure, taking time to acknowledge what is here. The ability for us to recognize this power of blue-green mindset, of that color green to energize us, to uplift us, to symbolize going and growing. And then the blue for that sense of calm and peace and ease. So here we have that union of the blue-green mindset. As we take that in visually, letting ourselves recognize what that means to us mentally, emotionally, and physically. All right, so got my mindset ready for some blue-green mind and blue-green adventure on the stand-up paddleboard. So I have the gear. So I've got a paddle, I've got, of course, my board with the fin, as well as a leash and my inherently buoyant PFD. I'm also here on a beautiful lake in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, the Poconos. So let's hop onto the water. Here we go. So now that I'm on the water, I'm going to come to the sweet spot of the board. That's the handhold. That's also the connection of the balance part of the board. And we also want to think about our sweet spot, our belly button, and connecting our belly button by the sweet spot of the board. So when I kneel, my belly button is over the handhold, the sweet spot to sweet spot. Or when I come to stand, one foot and the other on either side of the sweet spot. So whether you are standing, whether you are kneeling, we'll take some time to paddle around, to appreciate where we are, to take in the sounds and the sights. And so enjoying the view down into the water, on the surface of the water, as well as around us. And so I encourage you, when you come to your board, to take some time to just balance around. Maybe coming to stand, totally not an option, or it's just an option, it's not necessary. Maybe it's doing a little rock from side to side. And just getting yourself comfortable and braced here, acknowledging the feedback that you get from the board and the water and your ability to make some micro adjustments for it. Another thing that you may want to investigate is your ability to walk the board. So walking the board is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to come from the center of the board, a little bit forward to the nose of the board, and then we'll also walk towards the tail of the board. And as we do that, we'll notice that the board is obviously going to do nose down when we're at the nose of it, and it's going to be up when we're in the back. When we're in the back of the board and the nose is driving up, that is actually going to create a little bit more of a pivot point so that we can actually turn. So there is actually advantages for us to be able to walk the board different times when we're paddling. So when we walk the board and we come forward to the nose of the board, that is going to obviously drive the fin up. And at times I have needed that when I'm coming over something to be able to clear it. So that may be an appropriate use for walking to the nose of the board. Then there's times when coming to the tail of the board is necessary. Now, when I've done races and I've come around a turn and I've needed to be able to execute that turn a little quickly, I'm coming to the tail of the board, letting the nose be up and creating a turn. So I do encourage you to play when you get on a board, to walk the board and to rock the board. So enjoy having a little playtime there. Now as we come down to the board, we're going to begin to transition into Sup Yoga. So you see that I have taken off my inherently buoyant life jacket. I have placed it at the front of my board so that if I need to access it for any reason, it's there. I'm also going to remove my leash from around my ankle, and I'm going to wrap it around the shaft of my paddle. Once I've found my positioning of where I want to be, which you'll notice that I am anchored down in this spot. The board is still obviously going to shift around, so making any final adjustments to setting up where you want to start and knowing that we're going to go with the flow of the water so that if we come into a different direction, we're going to be okay with that. But set yourself up in that position where you want to begin. Now that you have your leash wrapped around your paddle, you can release it into the water. Now we are free on the board. Keep in mind that now if we fall off the board, we are away from our biggest flotation device, which is our board, and hopefully you've got that inherently buoyant life jacket accessible for you. Now that we're here, we're going to begin in child's pose. So bringing both knees to both sides of the sweet spot of the board and letting our big toes come to touch, letting the forehead meet down onto the board. And taking a few rounds of breath, feeling the flow of the water beneath the board, and feeling the flow of your breath. Feel the sun on your back. Become aware of the sounds around. And as we're here, I invite you to set an intention for your Sup Yoga adventure. Perhaps it's to stay tuned in to self, to feel the rhythm and the harmony of self and the water and the surroundings around. To feel that green mindset of going and growing, and the blue mindset of calm and ease and peace, going with the flow, and that blue-green mindset of balancing all of that, the effort and the ease, the going and the being still. Connect with your intention for 3 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, we'll shift to a table. The hands will be underneath the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips. And from here, begin to step back onto the heels, onto the feet. Coming into a seated posture. And then from here, inhale, come up to the knees, reach the hands overhead. Exhale, the hands at the heart, step back onto the knees. 2 more times. Inhale, come up to the knees, hands overhead. Exhale, hands to the heart, sit back. 1 more time. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, back down. This time as we inhale and come up, maybe hands come together or keep them shoulder distance, and then take a look up. And then find an uprighted posture. Exhale, hands to the heart. And hands come down to the board, tabletop position. Curl to the bottoms of your toes. And we're going to shift into downward facing dog. In order to do that, come the hands one more handprint from underneath the shoulders. Turn to the bottoms of the toes. And then just lift the knees. Hover the knees. Engage the core. Look down in between the thumbs. And then straighten one leg. And then the other leg. Just as we walked the board, now we're walking our dog. So take some time to walk and straighten one leg, bend the other, and then alternate. Take a look down and see that your sweet spot, your belly button, is above the sweet spot of the board. And then finding a long lunge. Both heels can make their way towards the board. On even positioning from your sweet spot. And then inhale, look up to your thumbs, straighten your back, and find a plank. Exhale, downward dog. We'll do that again. Inhale, come to your plank. Exhale, downward dog. One more time. Inhale, plank. Exhale, down dog. This time, inhale, come to your plank. Lower your knees down so they're right on the either side of the handhold, and then lower down to the board. Elbows hug into the sides of the body. And I'll make some adjustments here so that my inherently buoyant life jacket is positioned a little further so that I can bring my hands underneath my shoulder and my forehead to the board. And then take some time here to feel the tops of your toes on the board, the hands spread underneath the shoulders, and then press into the hands, lift the heart, keep the gaze down, find a baby cobra, bend those elbows. Exhale, float down. We'll find 2 more rising with the breath. Inhale up. Exhale, release back to the board, forehead meets the board. One more time, inhale, press through the hands, lift the heart. And then exhale, come back to the board. Curl to the bottoms of your toes. Find those strong hands. Press the board away. Come up to your plank. And then exhale, downward dog. Inhale back to your plank. And then exhale, lower down. And we'll move through. So inhale, come up to your cobra. And then exhale, find the board. Curl the toes. And then press up, plank. Exhale, down dog. Beautiful. One more time. Inhale to plank. Exhale, lower. Inhale, rise up, cobra. Exhale, fold down. And then inhale, plank. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, look to your hands and step 1 foot forward so that it is in between the hands, and the back knee is going to come down onto the board. So we're finding ourselves still aligned with that sweet spot to sweet spot. Make some adjustments so that if you need to come forward or back with those knees, you're still aligned. Let all the toes be forward towards the nose of the board, hands to the hips, or maybe you're feeling like you need those hands to come down to stabilize you a little bit more. And then notice what the board is cueing you into. Do you need to widen your stance for more stability? Listen to your body. Listen to the feedback that you're getting from the water and the board. On an inhale, bring the hands up overhead. Exhale the hands to the heart. 2 more times. Inhale, lift up, maybe look up. Exhale, hands to the heart. 1 more time. Inhale. Exhale, connect, hands to heart. And then we'll stay here for a breath. We're going to find a twist. So opposite hand is going to come forward. Same hand as knee is forward is going to come back. So we're finding a twist here. So feel yourself still upright, long spine. Find this twist. And then exhale and let yourself arch back to that back foot. Inhale, come up, uprighting yourself. And then cartwheel your hands to frame that foot. Step it back, find your downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Breathe it out. Look up to your hands. We're going to step the opposite foot forward so that we set up for the second side with as much grace and stability, letting all those toes be forward. Hands to the hips. Relax into this. So feel the effort, feel that green mindset to engage the core here, to pay attention to the body and the board and the water, bringing it all in harmony so that we find some stability and balance. And then take a breath so that we find that blue mind at ease. Inhale, bring the hands overhead, maybe look up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Feel yourself here, getting stronger each breath in. Settle into you on the breath out, hands to heart. 1 more time. Fill up, connect up. Exhale it out, connect to self. And then we'll find this twist on the second side. So remembering the opposite hand is coming forward, that the knee is forward. And then twisting towards the side of the bent knee in the front. Taking a breath, feeling a long spine. And then on an exhale, find a little arch back. Inhale, come back up to an uprighted spine, full twist, and then cartwheel your hands, frame that front foot, step it back, find downward facing dog again. And then coming to a child's pose and pause here. Take a breath in, sweet breath out. Reconnect with your intention, with your sensations, with the sounds around. Slowing the heart rate if it's elevated. Taking this rest to integrate all the strength that we've built. Decide we want to stay right here. Or begin to come back to your hands and knees. And then finding your downward dog. Hands, 1 more handprint from front of your shoulders. Downward facing dog. Option to lift 1 leg into downward facing dog. As you do that, bring the opposite foot to the center of the board, right behind the handhold. Lift 1 leg long. 3-legged dog. Maybe in this 3-legged dog, you want to bend the knee and see what it feels like to twist it open. Or perhaps you want to let that knee hug in towards your chest. And just take a little bit of time here to play 3-legged dog the way that feels right for you. And then we'll set up for a modified side plank. So that same foot that was rising in the air for 3-legged dog is going to come around and hug the rail of the board. That same hand is going to come right underneath your shoulder. And then the top hand is going to come to the top hip. That back long foot is going to really find the board. So press the toes in to the board, even that baby toe side of the foot. Let yourself look down at your bottom hand and then up to your heart. And then from your heart space, take your top hand all the way straight up. And find a modified side plank here with your foot wrapped around the rail. And taking a couple breaths to lengthen up the bottom side body, bottom waist. An option to keep that hand lifted right overhead, or take it in a bent elbow, hand behind the head, and then arch back just a little bit, playing a little bit with your balance of shifting everything to that one side. And then uprighting, hand comes back up to the sky, and then exhale, hands come back down. Find yourself into downward facing dog again. And we'll find that on the second side. So again, as we come into the second side, whatever foot is staying on the board is going to find the center of the board, raise up that top leg into the sky, put a bend into the knee, maybe twist it open and get a little play. The great thing about this is that you can still feel that you need to keep even weight into your hands as you do this. Maybe that knee hugs into the chest. Maybe you flow a few rounds from three-legged dog to a bent knee to the sky, or bent knee into the chest. And then when you're ready to settle down into that modified side plank, the leg from the sky is going to come behind the rail of the board, hands coming underneath the bottom shoulder, top hand to the heart. Brace yourself with that back leg so that you can either take it completely on the other side of the board as where your hand and your bottom knee are to balance there, or maybe you're playing around with that foot being right in the center of the board. Look down to the bottom hand, to your heart, and then up to the sky. Take a look around you at those beautiful green trees and blue sky. Feeling that lift, this bottom side waist. Option to bend that top arm behind the back of the head and let that back elbow, or the top elbow, kind of sink back a little bit. Playing here with the side. Keep finding a way to stay calm and steady even with the imbalances. That's life. Inhale, bring the hand back to the sky. Exhale, come back down, downward facing dog. And then take a moment to settle the knees to the sides of the sweet spot. Come back down to your child's pose. Pause here for another breath as we transition from another series of poses. And deciding if that feels right, or staying right here is the way that you want your experience to be. A beautiful adventure could be here, letting your hands come into the water, and just soaking up that cool tempo of the water, the cool temperature. Letting the heart slow down. And then if you're ready to rise up, come to your knees and then bring one foot to one side of the sweet spot. Look to the horizon and then place the other foot to the sweet spot. Find a low squat and you can stay right here. Maybe you sink down really low, letting the tailbone drop down towards the board, letting the heart lift up. Finding a squat and feeling here any restrictions, any discomfort, and see where you can find some ease, some blue mindset in the breath. You can stay here in this low squat, maybe a little longer, and playing with shifting weight from one side of the board to the other. And if it feels right for you, root through your feet and come to stand. Finding all toes facing the nose of the board and come into Tadasana. Hands can be to the sides of the body with the fingertips together and the palms facing into the body. Inhale, sweep the hands up overhead. Feel your radiant self long and tall. Exhale, hands to your heart. 2 more times. Inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, hands to the heart. 1 more time. Inhale, rise with the breath. Exhale, hands to the heart. We're going to find a standing twist here. So 1 hand forward, 1 hand back. Find yourself twisted. And then back to center. Notice we can come out of the things that twist us up. Come back to ease and centering ourselves on our breath. And then take that adventure, that challenge to the other side. And then exhaling, coming back to center and self. From here, come up to a tall mountain. Hands come overhead. Maybe even play with coming to the tips of your toes. And then back down to the board on the tips of the toes if that's available. And we're going to come to a seat this time. So the seat is going to be, we're going to come right behind that sweet spot, the center of the board, and let your soles of your feet come together, finding a butterfly pose. Your butterfly pose could have your heels close to you or a little bit further away. Wherever you are, see if you can upright your spine, find a tall spine, the crown of the head lifts to the sky, just as the crown of the trees lift to the sky. Take a breath here. Feel yourself upright, and maybe on your exhale, begin to fold over, reach for your ankles or your big toes, and find a fold, a bow into self here. Inhale, come back up. And then keeping one leg bent, one leg straight, bring the sole of the bent leg right into the inner thigh of the straight leg. So we're finding a seated tree pose here. So we're going to flow with the breath. So really rock around a little bit. Make sure your sit bones feel stable on the board. And then inhale, hands overhead. Exhale, fold, bow down towards that straight leg. And then inhale back up. 2 more times. Exhale and fold. Inhale, rise. This time as you exhale and fold, maybe you decide to stay here. The hands can be by the knees, by the shin, maybe they're by the heel. Letting yourself pause here or keep flowing with the breath. And then as you kind of fold into yourself, notice if you're tightening the jaw or wrinkling the forehead. And then coming back up. And before we transition to the other side, take a look around, bring your hands behind you, fingertips facing your toes, and then bend both knees and just give a little windshield wiper side to side of those knees. Again, we're rocking the board. We're finding kind of our edges, maybe challenged a little bit. We're finding ourselves feeling a little off balance, and then making micro shifts, micro adjustments to find ease and stability back into center. So we'll transition this to the other side. You may not see me at this time folding forward, but inner sole of the foot to the inner thigh, long leg, inhale, long arms overhead. And then exhale, bow down. Rise up with the breath. Crown lifts, fingertips lift, and then exhale, bow down. 1 more time, rise up. This time as you bow down and exhale out, decide to stay, but keep the breath flowing. Hands by the knee, the calf, the ankle. Find 3 breaths here, either with that movement still or pausing in this fold. Letting yourself find the intensity of the stretch, but finding places to release. Maybe wiggle the toes, the bottom jaw. So that we find ease, even in our effort here to increase our flexibility in this pose. to settle ourselves down. And then as you rise back up, maybe deciding to put that bend in both knees and find the windshield wiper, or keep both legs long and then just shaking the legs out. And then we'll come to a bent knee, both knees bend, and uprighting our spine. And we're kind of coming into the start of a boat pose. You can certainly just stay right here or begin to come back into the seat, lift the feet. Maybe it's one foot, maybe it's both feet, and then hands can come out. So finding a connection to core and our strength here. Feel a lift of the heart space, and then feel the ease with the breath. Soften into this. Find this blue mind, even in the challenge of our boat pose, strengthening our core. And then when you are ready, lower down slowly or with a little bit faster pace until you come all the way onto your back. Put a bend in both knees. Bring them close to the sit bones. And then press through the heels, rise up into a bridge pose. Let your shoulders connect and hug onto the back. Feet are hip distance apart. Hands can always come around the rails of the board. And then exhaling, lower down. And then we'll find a little play here. Inhale, lifting the hips. Maybe you lift a foot. And then coming back down. And playing again. As we come up to bridge, maybe we lift a leg. And then you can explore. You can adventure around into this bridge. Maybe you're coming in to the bridge where your hands come together at the base of the low part of your back. Keeping your knees aligned so they're hip distance. Maybe you want to play a little bit with coming to bridge. Fingertips right to the shoulders, palms onto the board, coming up into a wheel pose. When you're ready to be done playing, be done. Finding yourself back onto the board. Hug those knees into the chest. Maybe finding a little bit of rock side to side, a little happy baby, soles of the feet to the sky. And finding just some of that simple joy of learning new things just as a baby. Of rocking around on the board, rocking in this happy baby. And then when you're ready to settle in to a still point, you can come with knees bent or knees long on the board, hands onto the body, or maybe you want to let the hands drape down into the water. Just take some time to notice if the body needs any wiggles. And then coming to a place of ease. Coming into that space of blue mind. Acknowledging where we have been in our Sup Yoga adventure. Just letting yourself kind of relive the poses that we've been in. And any realizations that came to you as you were in those poses, as you were flowing with your breath. Recalling which poses gave you a sense of that green mind, and which gave you a sense of blue mind. Of that effort and the ease. Of the challenge and the accomplishment. And feeling all integrate as one here. Taking in any sensations in the body. any sounds around you. Letting yourself soak it all in. Being in this moment, integrating as one. Staying here as long as you'd like. If you're ready to move, make little movements of fingers and toes. And expand the body long on the board. And then bring the feet to the board. And rolling onto one side, remembering where your sweet spot is, and alignment of sweet spot of the board. Pausing in transition. Honoring where we've been. Having gratitude for all that we've experienced. Letting those growths, that peace and ease, carry us on to our next adventure. Coming up to sit. Hands connect at the heart. Honoring self. Honoring what is within us and around us. May we continue to integrate mind, body, and planet, and blue-green mind. Thank you so much for joining for this Sup Yoga adventure. Namaste. All right, so that is a wrap of our Sup Yoga adventure in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, the Poconos. I'm going to bring in my anchor. I'm going to bring in my paddle. I'm going to leash back up. And I want to give a huge shout out and credit to my mama, Tina Markagine, who's been behind the camera. And so big love, much gratitude. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.